Retirement doesn't just change your schedule, it actually changes your marriage. Do you believe me? If not, I want you to sit and listen to the 3 major lessons that I learned as Mark and I retired. As many of you know, we retired together on the same day, the same year, experiencing very different types of first entry into retirement. And we hit a lot of road bumps along the way, to be absolutely candid with you. We hit some stretch points for the two of us that I wasn't sure we were going to recover from. You know, Mark stepped out of an entrepreneurial role where he built a business with his brother for years and years and years. I stepped out of a corporate role where I zipped on the armor every day for 35 years in a Fortune 200 financial services company. So we were coming at life, even though we were living together for all those years we were working, we didn't realize we were really coming at life from 2 different perspectives based on the people that we became during our work years. I want to share with you guys today the 3 biggest lessons that I learned during that time, during that first hard time into retirement, which for me was a really hard landing. More like a landing without a parachute. I don't even want to tell you the parachute half opened. I don't even know if mine opened all the way, and it nearly broke us. The first thing I want to mention to you is too much time together can hurt. Now, what do I mean by that? You figure you're going to have all this time together with your person, right? This is the person you chose, however X number of years ago, and you're going to get to spend more time together every day. For 7 days a week, 30 or 31 days a month, or 28 if it's February, for 12 months a year. And I was so looking forward to spending long days with Mark, long nights doing things we want to do, travel, all the things. But the reality is, with extra time on our hands, extra magnification of differences began to happen. Things like, I mentioned Mark's an entrepreneur, so he's a throw spaghetti against the wall kind of guy. I'm corporate, so I'm looking for accountability and structure in the house because that now became my new world, right? So Mark would want to try things or, hang things in different places if we were moving furniture around, which we did quite a bit. He would want to try new recipes, and if it didn't work, scrap it, let's order a pizza, as opposed to, making sure we had everything, making sure we had structure, making sure we had everything we needed. Small annoyances start to get very magnified, in my opinion. Doesn't mean he was wrong and I was right, or I was wrong and he was right. It just was this idea that all this time together truly, truly magnified everything we were doing together and everything that we were doing differently. We found that we both needed space. That wasn't what I thought we would find when we came into retirement. I really thought we would find that we couldn't wait to do more and more things together. The reality was we needed some space to create our own identity in retirement. So this idea that too much time can hurt also meant that our identities were being hurt because we were trying to blend together. Kind of like, do you remember when Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck were a thing and they were like they were Benifer. I forget what they were. We were trying to do so many things together and enjoy life in lockstep that we both not only lost our identity coming out of work, but we were losing our identity to each other because we couldn't figure out who we really were. We needed separate routines. We needed separate hobbies, and we also needed separate friends, separate groups that we could continue to bring back to the relationship so that it continued to grow, not the same groups, hobbies, and friends, so that the relationship was always together. Now listen, the first link that you'll see below is a download on a relationship toolkit. Why am I mentioning that right now? I'm going to encourage you to download that because it has a lot of tips and tricks in it that will help you as you move through this changing relationship in retirement. The second lesson, this one's a big one, and I really thought I was pretty good at communication, but communication matters more than ever once you both retire, or even if only one of you has retired. Why do I say that? Roles and responsibilities that were predisposed in your working careers change because now you are both maybe at home. So, for example, Mark and I would start the week when we were working, and I would say, I've got dinner out. I'll get dinner Monday. I've got dinner out Tuesday and Thursday. Can you get dinner Wednesday? Friday's a crapshoot. We'll see what the kids are up to. So we always laid it out ahead of time. We got a little lazy with that in retirement, and we'd wake up Monday morning and after hosting all the kids or friends for a weekend, and we'd realize, we didn't really assign a role and there's no real food left in the house. So who has to do what? And with that lack of assignment of roles, with that lack of clarity around who was going to do what, because we had all this free time, we started kind of nipping at each other. Like, why didn't you go to the grocery store? Well, why didn't you go to the grocery store? Well, the grocery store is not my responsibility. It's your responsibility. I cook, you clean. Like, we couldn't figure it out. So retirement does change roles and responsibilities, and you have to communicate around that. You also have to talk about, in this communication bucket, you have to talk about expectations. Expectations not only of roles and responsibility, expectations of money and spending, and this idea of de-accumulating your wealth. You're not accumulating wealth anymore, so now you're de-accumulating wealth. You're time affluent, but you're de-accumulating your assets if you're not working and have other income coming in. So you have to set expectations around things that I never had to set expectations around with anybody because I had my own career, I had my own bank account, I had my own bills, and I had my own spending power. Now, combined together, that's one of the quick rubs that can come out in your retirement. You don't want to be the person receiving all of these packages during the day and have snarky remarks coming at you like, did you need another dress? What is that? Why are you getting your makeup online? What is that skincare product? Hey, did you really need to order another pair of golf shoes? So I'm kind of going on both sides here because Mark gets about as many packages a day that I do. But this idea about communication around expectations, expectations on finances, on roles and responsibility, on chores, on how are we going to deal with grandkids? I might want to be with them all the time. Mark might want to be with them part of the time. On things like hobbies, I jumped into golf with 2 feet and I play 2 days a week. Mark is deep into the YouTube channel serving you guys. So he's like, okay, if you're playing golf 2 days a week, what are my expectations? What should they be for your work on Retirement Transformed and on the YouTube channel? So we really had to push and pull our way through communication. I will tell you, I grew up in a family of big reactions. So that's great when things are going well, but big reactions also when things aren't going well. I've had to work really hard in this stage of retirement on responding, not reacting to everything that Mark says. Even learning more about communication, when I should take a pause, when I should let something land, when I should let heavy lifting do some of the work in a conversation. I never thought twice about that when I was working. I was working 10, 12 hours a day, managing the kids, going to sports, cooking, doing all the things that we all do when we're juggling a million glass balls. But now in retirement, I needed to really take a step back and really work on my communication skills, or Mark and I were heading down a path that was not going to be easy to recover from. The best thing about working on your communication skills is you get to know a lot about yourself. You get to know what a clear, honest communication style can look like. Maybe you had that in your career. Maybe you had corporate speak in your career. Maybe you had play nice in the sandbox in your career. Now the sandbox is your life. And clear, honest communication prevents conflict before it'll start. And remember, you have all this time, and the topic is lesson I've learned about my marriage and retirement. And I would say communication's a big one. Let that hang. Think about how you're communicating with your spouse or partner or significant other in your world now that you have all this extra time. The next thing I would say is awkward to talk about, and sometimes everyone just tries to avoid it. So you have to weave it into that communication that you're working on. But you have to keep investing not only in the relationship, but in intimacy. And what do I mean by that? Intimacy changes as you age. It absolutely 100% changes for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. I can promise you, if we sat down and had a conversation and I asked you point blank about intimacy at 21 years old, 31 years old, 41 years old, 61 years old, and beyond, you would have different iterations of what intimacy meant to you. It's important in retirement, as you retire with a spouse, partner, significant other, that person in your life that you are intimate with, that you stay focused on intimacy, that you stay focused on what is important to you about intimacy, that you plan date nights, even though you have all of this time and you think, well, we're already spending 7 days a week, 24 hours a day together. It's nice to plan something special. It's nice to plan an intimate dinner. It's nice to plan intimate moments. It's nice to plan quiet rituals that you can do together, whether that's wake up in the morning and give each other a kiss and a big hug, one of those hugs you just can't let go of the person, or whether it's at night before you go to bed, saying something really wonderful about the person, giving them a big hug and a kiss, or actually being intimate. Intimacy will keep your partnership alive, and it will stop that idea that as you age, you are just roommates. Because it's a long life. 30 years of just being roommates may not work for you, may not work for your partner. So go back to point number 2, which was communication. You have to have the courage to communicate about intimacy at this stage of life. Now, I've got some questions that our team put together, and I want to read a few. Hi, I'm Carol. I'm 68. My husband and I love each other, but being together all day is truly hard. I know, Carol. I get it. How do you give each other space without drifting apart? It's a great question. Giving each other space doesn't mean you turn a blind eye to everything your partner's doing and they turn a blind eye to everything you're doing. Having time apart and then bringing energy back to the relationship and sharing what you did while you were away from each other fortifies the relationship. It will stop the drift. Give it a try, Carol. Next one. My name is Linda and I'm 65. Since retirement, I feel like I do all the housework while all my husband does is relax. How can you talk about new roles without fighting? It's interesting. The things that have to get done on the list of household chores are just that. They're just things. I would suggest an honest list of what those things are. And then does one of you or the other of you have a personal affinity towards it? And I'll give you an example. Mark loves to cook. Mark does not love to grocery shop. He does not like to meal plan. And he does not love cleaning up. I value the fact that he likes to cook. But I go through and do the meal plan. I'd go to the grocery store. I don't mind going to the grocery store. I've never minded it. Some people hate it. I don't mind it. I do the grocery shopping. I put everything away and I line everything up for the week. This is what here's chef. And I'll actually say to him, chef, here's all the equipment you need for the week. And here's what we're going to do. And then he does what he loves. He grinds the spices. He browns the meat. He does everything he loves to do. So I guess I would say, Linda, make that list of things and then split it up and realize whether or not each of you has an affinity to one thing or another. Laundry, I like to do my own laundry. Mark will often say to me, hey, I'm doing a load of whites. Do you have anything for me? And I'm like, nope. I, for some reason, have always, since I was maybe 8 years old, always done my own laundry. I prefer to do my own laundry. That's not one we share. That's not one that one person takes on the role of responsibility. So I hope that helps. The next one. Hi, I'm Barbara and I'm 70. We've been married 40 years. Congratulations, Barbara. But in retirement, we are more like roommates. How can I possibly bring intimacy back after all these years? It's a great question, and it's an important question, and it's one that you should work with your partner, Barbara, with to figure out what that looks like. I think it starts with being honest that intimacy changes. You know, sex changes. It changes a lot as you age, and it will continue to change as you grow and as your body changes. Women's bodies change and men's bodies change. But that doesn't mean the true intimate moments have to change. Mark and I did an interview with a sex therapist years ago, and you can find it on the channel. And she talked about an exercise that she puts her clients through where they both sit with no clothes on their bed, and you can spend 10, 15, 20 minutes touching each other in non-erogenous zone areas. Just touching, just feeling the touch. And I will tell you, for me, when Mark comes up behind me and gives me a back rub, the man has never taken a massage lesson in his life, but he gives the best massages. And that feels so kind and so caring and so intimate to me that it really ignites a spark for the two of us to remember touching each other in non-erogenous places, not going for the money shot, as I would say to him sometimes. Really brings back the love, the feeling, the spark, and the intimate moments. Listen, if you like this video, watch this next. Your marriage can thrive after retirement. This next video is called Sex Over 60. I think you're going to like it.